honestly, it's life and death. You don't know if she's going to survive or not.
What happens if my child dies?
I was diagnosed with stage 4 ALK non-hodgkin's lymphoma.
So I jump out of bed and run in her room, and she's still asleep, but she is screaming.
I'm Allie Joy, and these are my parents. This is...
I'm Harvey Walls, and I'm a children's pastor here at River Life Assembly.
And this is my mom.
Donna, and I work as a teacher's assistant at Head Start. And we have 3 girls. Amy is 27, married to Andy, and they live in Gold Beach, Oregon. Anna is 26, and she attends Western Oregon University. And Allie Joy is a freshman at Northwest University this year.
And this is our story of how we came into the world of cancer.
In October of 2015, I woke up with a little bit of leg pain, and my parents suggested to go to the local PA. He told me I had a tiny old man disease.
But anyways, she's got nerve damage is what PA was saying, so if we could fix it by
sweatpants and skirts.
So
she was in excruciating pain, and I can't stand watching her be in pain. So her dad took her back to the PA, and
same thing. He says just give it time, but it's only getting worse. So
he said I was impatient. We went to the chiropractor.
We did the X-ray thing, and then got the X-ray results back almost the next day, I think it was.
Yeah.
And nothing showed up in that. So he's thinking the next step is MRI, which is a better picture of what could be going on inside and cover some other things besides bone.
And then the chiropractor asked us to come in Friday, December, I think it was the 4th. He says, I have surprising, I don't even know what his words were.
This isn't what I expected.
This is not what I expected to have to tell you. He turns the monitor around and he says they found a giant mass in her groin area about the size of a grapefruit. And he said, I'm not that kind of doctor, but I'm pretty sure it's cancer.
All of a sudden we're facing a situation where, yeah, maybe need to think about it, but for God it's too much. I can't handle the idea, much less the reality. So I'm going to need your help, God. And that's something we've taught our kids, we've taught other people's kids for years, that God is a big God and He's in charge and He can take care of us and He can take care of our every hurt, and if we just rely on Him and trust in Him, He will see us through it. He may not change what we're going through. We may still have to walk through these steps, but God's going to be there with us.
We walk out and I immediately,
burst into tears.
Burst into tears outside.
She tried to hide it.
I did. I tried to walk away from the car because while we're sitting in there hearing cancer, I'm texting our pastor, my best friend. Okay, I'm not gonna cry. And so I'm trying to calm down, and she's like, how are you? I go, I can't talk to you right now. You're gonna make me even worse. So I tell her, I'll call her later. And so I get in the car, and I'm still crying. And Harvey
It's kind of an intense moment.
He says in the car, as we're getting ready to pull out, I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say it. And of course, Allie is encouraging her dad, going, just say it. Just say it, Dad. Just say it. He says, well, you want to go to Disneyland? I guess we could do Make-A-Wish. And they're like busting up laughing, and I'm crying. I'm like, that's not funny. You know, in the midst of laughing too, because that's just the way we handle things. And her sister said, you need to name your tumor. And because they call it a mass, she named it Melvin the Mass. So we started writing hashtag Kill Melvin on her whiteboard. We even had t-shirts made, and Brian, and some of the people involved in Kids Camp even ordered shirts that said hashtag Kill Melvin.
While you're in the car, and I'm just sitting in the back seat, and I have no idea what's going on, because you hear the word cancer, but you don't actually know what that is, especially if you've never been around people who have been diagnosed with cancer. So I just know that there's a tumor in me, and it could be cancerous, but I don't know what that means. But she's freaking out, so I don't know if I should be freaking out or not, and I didn't know how to handle it.
We had gone to bed, and I woke up because I heard screaming, and I thought my husband had left the TV on in our bedroom. And so I'm processing it, and I realized that is Allie. So I jump out of bed and run in her room, and she's still asleep, but she is screaming because she's in pain. So I ran and got my husband. Our house is really small, but I went as far away as I could in the house to the back door corner, and I sat on the floor, and I curled up, and I just started bawling. I was sobbing. I was just sitting there having a conversation with God, telling him, nope, this is not going to happen. Our family is not going to do cancer. I don't know what you were thinking, and she's too young. And at one point I even said to Allie the next day, I said, you know, if I could take your place, I would. And she goes, well, that's stupid. That's just our relationship. And so I was just sobbing, and I was like, no, 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 no. And my Bible happened to be laying on the dining room table there. And I got up and sat in a chair, and I looked at it. And there were verses after verse. First one I remember looking at was, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And I was like, oh, man, we are going to do this, aren't we?
One thing that we've seen and put into practice, and it is true, is that there is an afterlife, and it is a better life, and it's with Jesus, and that our life here on earth is but a vapor. That's how the Bible describes it. It's just a mist, and then it's gone. And when we take that perspective, that life here on earth is just a mist, that much compared to eternity, you go into it a lot better, knowing that if anything were to happen, if I were to die, my children were to die, that it's not the end.
I was sitting there with Allie, and we're very open and honest, I felt, with each other, and I said to her, so, Allie, what if this is really bad, and they say you're gonna die? And she just looked at me, and she said, well, so, either I get to go to heaven before you, or God's gonna heal me and he's got my back. And I was like, oh man, I have to be even stronger than I planned. She's running a fever, and she's arching her back, she's in so much pain and just shaking from the pain and the fever. And my immediate thought was, call 911. I'm not watching her do this anymore.
They sent us to OHSU. So it was a long process. 23 days in the hospital, ups and downs of trying to figure out exactly what kind of cancer it is.
PET scan, CAT scan,
MRI.
CAT scan with contrast,
Ultrasounds.
ultrasound.
She's got tubes and
and
arms, and they keep
mark-
changing
yeah.
things. I guess I was encouraged throughout this journey to see my children's faith, their own faith, not just mine and things I've taught them, but now it's theirs, and they're putting it into action. One tradition we had as a family, when we tuck our kids in bed, to pray with them and to sing a song with them. And I had a repertoire of songs that I would sing to my kids. Everything from On Top of Spaghetti, I'll cover with cheese, to Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. There's just something about that name. And that was a song I sang to them before they could remember, when they were babies, just to calm them when they were crying and upset. And I would sing Jesus, because in the name of Jesus there's power, there's comfort and peace. And that was Allie's request when she was in the hospital bed. Would you sing to me, Dad? And I'd sing that song. And it made a difference. There's a calming that happens when we talk about Jesus.
Early Friday morning, the doctor walks in, and we're still asleep. She flips on the light, and he says, your daughter has cancer. Any questions?
I was diagnosed with stage 4 ALK non-hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a lot of big fancy words.
To say she was really sick. I did a lot of crying. Not that I was, I guess in a way I was a little angry at God because I didn't want to see my daughter walk through this. But then a friend helped me realize, Michelle Little, she sent me a long message on my phone, and she said, Don, I know this isn't the road that your family has chosen to walk, but you're there now. And she used the term accidental missionary, and that's kind of, I picked up on that we're missionaries now in the world of cancer. Not a missionary field anyone would choose to go on. I mean, God calls you to different countries to be missionaries. Well, he called us, whether we were willing at the time or not, to be in the land of cancer. Her breathing was shallow, she wasn't getting enough oxygen, and her heart rate was elevated, and they just looked at me and said, she's not going home.
in which I burst into tears because all I wanted to do was go home, and I just found out I'm stuck in the hospital for who knows how long.
Yeah, at that point we didn't know how long.
So not only at this point I was diagnosed with cancer, which I still don't fully understand. I'm on morphine and oxycodone and all these other drugs, and now I'm told that I have to live in the hospital for even longer, and I had no idea what was going on.
The nurse kind of actually laughed at me when I said, oh, so we're going to go home this week. She said, oh, you're going to be here months. And I didn't know how to tell her that. In fact, I couldn't tell her that. I don't think I ever did tell her that's what the doctor said.
I just found that out last week.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not telling her that because she's already upset about having to be here. Oh, by the way, we're going to put her on blood thinners for the blood clot. The, what do they call it?
Pulmonary embolism.
Pulmonary embolism. She has a blood clot in her lungs, which is deadly if they don't break it up. And I was like, whoa, what? So anyway, yeah, and she also ended up with a blood clot in her leg, where they had to do the surgery incision to find out what kind of tumor. She got an infection, so now she's on antibiotics for the infection. They still know that the tumor is growing in her because by now it's actually
You
protruding.
can see it.
It's growing that
outside my
fast
hip.
that it's protruding. So in my mind, I'm thinking just do something. It was decided that they would move her to the 14th floor, which is the cancer ward. They brought all these doctors in, and the doctor is examining her and pushes on her tumor, and she like arched her back, and immediately like her vitals went crazy. Her heart rate shot up to like 160. Her breathing went shallow, and they asked us to leave the room, which is kind of scary, by the way. And they said we're going to call the intensive care unit doctor in. And then he examined her, and he comes down and he starts to walk away, and he said, hey, do we need to call family? And he said, if I were you, I'd call your family. The nurses there were awesome, although when they were examining her, Allie, gotta remember she was on drugs. It's like, I don't like that nurse. I'm like, well, I'm sorry you don't like her, but she's doing her job. And all night long we sat beside her, taking turns, and I could tell people were praying because we were watching her heart rate continually come down from 160. And it got down to like 105, and I was like, kept elbowing Harvey, going, look, and her breathing was back to normal. And the next morning, the doctors made their rounds, and he's like, I don't even know why she's here. She seems to be doing fine. And so they had a discussion, and they moved her right back up to the 14th floor, and they immediately started chemotherapy before they knew anything that night, because it was such an aggressive, fast-growing tumor.
I guess we got the news about cancer. We got the news that this could be really bad in the ICU trip, the intensive care unit. Things are a lot worse than we thought. Her breathing is bad, her heart rate is out of control. Trying to take a step back and remember that the big picture is, where's our eternity going to be spent?
We spent a lot of time in prayer in the hospital. One time, Allie was in so much pain, and Barb and Brian, just happened to walk in at that moment, and we just gathered around and linked hands and just started praying. And Christmas Day, she was still in the hospital, but it was probably one of the worst days ever for Allie. She didn't want to be there. People had sent up decorations that we could actually put up, but it was not Christmas. I asked the doctor, and they made a checklist on her whiteboard. And Christmas Day was the day that we were told exactly what her kidneys were in failure, another thing. Because of the tests and stuff they had done, her kidneys were going into failure. So her numbers had to improve. But once Allie was given the list of knowing what she had to do, she immediately was ready to try to get out of bed, because at this point she couldn't even make it to the bathroom by herself. She had a walker. We were helping her because her leg was so swollen. She gained, girls, you ready for this, 55 pounds in the hospital.
All in the legs buzz.
55 pounds. Imagine immediately
That's
gaining
the steroids.
55 pounds and trying to walk with that 55-pound extra weight on you. So she was struggling, just moving. December 28th, they released her. God's another miracle. She had improved so much by December 28th.
They had planned the chemo strategy. It was supposed to be
The chia.
the CHIOP. That was a different kind. That was the recipe of drugs that would effectively treat this kind of cancer. And that was a whole experience in itself, was being on the cancer ward with other people who have experienced cancer and going through the same kinds of treatments or worse kind of treatments. So Allie got to meet all kinds of different people, and it's an adult cancer. So there were no kids there, but just And for the most part, older people, because it's who normally gets
Really
cancer.
old people.
Really
Grandpas and grandmas.
So they like to have a young whippersnapper in there, and they were rooting for her and those kinds of things, you know.
And they brought me cookies.
They would walk by and start laughing because they're in recliners getting their treatments, and she would be hanging upside down in her recliner to get comfortable, and they would take pictures.
You have to understand the treatment lasted from, like, we'd get there at like 9 a.m. to do the blood draw stuff, so they could test my blood, and then the treatment would start, and I'd be there until like 4 o'clock. That's a long time to be sitting in a recliner.
A week later, she would have to get injections to build up her immune system. We offered to do, see if we could find someone to do the shots ourselves, but each injection was $18,000. Just to get a perspective of how cancer can wipe out a family financially. God is good. We're not
I'm really
wiped out.
expensive.
She is. She's going to college now, but I think her cancer costs more than college. But anyway, yeah, so we'd have to, every Saturday and Sunday after her initial chemo, we'd go, me and her, or the family on Saturdays, we'd go to the emergency room. And after 3 treatments, Dr. Okada from Portland ordered a CAT scan because he wanted to see how she was doing. And he says that her tumor has shrunk
75%.
75%. When we told the nurses at Celilo, they were like shocked that it had shrunk so much already. And not only that, every chemo treatment she had, she didn't get sick.
Typically when you get chemo, you end up throwing up all the time, stuck in bed, really sick, bloody noses all the time.
Just a lot of ugly
They
side
prepared
effects.
us with a lot of things.
I have,
that
oh,
normally
I wish
happen.
I have an entire binder of all the things that will happen when you get chemo, except for almost none of it happened. I got a bloody nose twice, I think.
Right, and she got dehydrated once, but that was just because she doesn't drink water. Yeah. Her last treatment was April 1st. So he comes in and he's doing his regular talk, and I said, so is she cancer free? He said, well, I can't say that because they can't. But he said, I can tell you she's in remission, which means there's no sign of cancer. And I said, oh, I told her I'd do a dance if you said cancer free. He said, oh, Mama, you can do the dance.
Still cancer free.
Still cancer free. So 6 months now, in remission, totally God touching her. And we're still giving God the glory. Every single day, it's changed our lives for the better. You have to accept where God takes you in life. No, you don't want to walk down this cancer road, but that's where God took us. Let God do what He needs to in your life, what He wants to do. Accept where you are in life and ask God to help you walk through whatever you're walking through. And give God the glory when He does things in your life.